that are more trans people filling up subversive and social revolutionary movements. And this reflects challenges to the grip of families over our lives, and therefore the reproduction of capitalist relations. So these are some real...
Ding, 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 ding. There are more, according to Jules, Joanne, Gleeson, who is one of the editors of Transgender Marxism, there are more trans people. There are specifically more trans people in revolutionary movements, and they're pushing the ideology in order to disrupt the family via social reproduction. Did everyone hear that? Let's listen again.
That are more trans people filling up subversive and social revolutionary movements. And this reflects very objectively real and quantifiable challenges to the grip of families over our lives, and therefore the reproduction of capitalist relations. So these are some real trends.
And therefore the reproduction of capitalist relations. Okay, so I want to do a quick pause, and I want to make sure I break this down so that new people understand this, because this is a really critical point to understand about queer Marxism. Now, first off, I know it's going to be confusing to people because you're hearing the title Transgender Marxism, and we know on this channel that trans is different than queer. You don't have to be trans to be queer. However, what people may not know is that queer Marxists, when queer Marxists are using the term trans, because they do it all the time, they say, I'm trans and non-binary, or I'm trans and queer. When queer Marxists use the term trans, they do not mean transition from man to woman or woman to man. What they mean is transcend the gender binary or transform the gender binary. And this wording is very, very specific. And if you just Google transcend gender or transform gender, you will see this is true. Any conferences or talks related to the topic of queer, they're using the terms like transgender or transform to indicate that they are pushing beyond the gender binary. So what I'm going to call normal trans people, and I know that not everyone likes that terminology, but I'm going to use it anyway. When I say normal trans person, what I mean is a person who has body dysmorphia for whatever reason, and they believe that living socially as the opposite gender is going to help with that particular mental health problem. I do believe it's a mental health problem. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but like one of the ways that you treat body dysmorphia is you live as the opposite gender. But people who are normal trans people, they understand that there are men and women, and that they are transitioning from being a man to a woman or a woman to a man. Now, you might have certain feelings about them doing that, but the fact is that if they are transitioning from being a man to a woman or woman to a man, they are still upholding the gender binary. The gender binary means men and women. Well, yeah, so Blair White would be a normal trans person. Now, she's an awful person for other reasons, and I do not like Blair White, and I think that she's a really intellectually dishonest person and a grifter. But Blair White is what we would consider a normal trans person, someone who acknowledges that men and women exist and that she went from being a man to a woman, and that's the way she lives her life. Buck Angel would also be considered a normal trans person. And by the way, guys, there are trans people in my audience. There are trans people watching this stream right now. I have no beef with normal trans people that want to uphold the gender binary. I think that anyone who wants to uphold the gender binary is fine. But yeah, that's a good example of like a normal trans person. People who are queer want to destroy the gender binary. They want to abolish the gender binary, abolish gender, okay? Because they believe that gender was created by capitalism, which created these socially constructed categories of men and women. They don't believe men and women have any basis in biological reality. They think these are just social constructs, and their goal as queer Marxists is to abolish the gender binary in order to abolish and disrupt social reproduction of capitalism in the nuclear family. So when queer Marxists are using the term transgender Marxism in this presentation, they're not saying transition from man to woman or woman to man. They're saying going beyond the gender binary to something else entirely. I hope that makes sense to people. Queer trans people also reject passing as part of rejecting the gender binary. That's where the bearded woman comes in. That's exactly right. Yeah, Missy, it's okay. You're brand new. This is going to be a lot for you, but just, Missy, let the socialism wash over you. You don't need to remember everything right away. It's going to be okay. So just relax, let it happen.